In the heart of the dense, foreboding forest known simply as Darkwood, there lurked tales of unspeakable horrors. Stories whispered among the villagers spoke of those who dared to venture too deep into its shadowed embrace, never to return. But for Nancy, a young and adventurous soul, the allure of the forbidden was irresistible. Nancy had always been drawn to the mysteries of Darkwood. Its ancient trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out even the faintest glimmer of sunlight. Despite the warnings of her elders, Nancy felt an inexplicable pull towards the secrets that lay hidden within. One foggy autumn morning, Nancy made the decision to venture into Darkwood alone. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and a sense of curiosity, she plunged into the depths of the forest, her heart pounding with excitement and trepidation. As Nancy pushed further into the tangled undergrowth, the sounds of civilization faded away, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by the rustle of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. She pressed on, guided by an unshakable determination to uncover the truth. Hours passed, and the darkness deepened around her. Nancy's flashlight flickered ominously, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. Yet still, she pressed on, driven by an unyielding resolve to conquer her fears. But then, just as Nancy began to wonder if she had lost her way entirely, she stumbled upon something that froze her blood in her veins. Half hidden beneath a tangle of brambles lay the remains of an old, weather-beaten cabin, its windows shattered and its door hanging precariously off its hinges. Despite the voice of reason screaming in her mind to turn back, Nancy felt compelled to investigate. With trembling hands, she pushed open the creaking door and stepped into the darkness within. As Nancy's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, the interior of the cabin revealed itself to be a scene frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture lay in disarray, as if the occupants had fled in haste, leaving behind all semblance of order. Nancy's heart raced as she cautiously explored the dilapidated space. Every creak of the floorboards beneath her feet sent shivers down her spine, and the feeling of being watched lingered like a ghostly presence in the air. In a corner of the room, Nancy spotted a wooden chest, partially hidden beneath a tattered curtain. With trembling hands, she approached it, her curiosity overcoming her fear. As she lifted the lid, a cloud of dust billowed into the air, causing her to cough and sputter. But amidst the debris, Nancy's eyes widened in disbelief as she uncovered a collection of old journals, their pages yellowed with age. With trembling hands, she opened one at random and began to read, her heart pounding with excitement and dread. The entry spoke of a family who had once called the cabin home, detailing their descent into madness as they became increasingly obsessed with the secrets of Darkwood. Tales of strange occurrences and inexplicable phenomena filled the pages, each one more chilling than the last. But it was the final entry that made Nancy's blood run cold. In shaky handwriting, the author described a ritual intended to summon forth a malevolent entity said to dwell within the depths of the forest, a being of pure darkness and unfathomable power. As Nancy read on, a sense of dread washed over her. She knew she should leave the cabin and return to safety, but something held her rooted to the spot. A voice whispered in the back of her mind, urging her to continue her exploration, to uncover the truth hidden within the shadows. With a mixture of trepidation and determination, Nancy gathered her courage and pressed on into the depths of the forest. Each step she took felt heavier than the last, the weight of uncertainty bearing down upon her with suffocating force. As she ventured deeper into the heart of Darkwood, the trees seemed to close in around her, their twisted branches forming a labyrinth of shadows that threatened to engulf her whole. The air grew thick with the stench of decay, and the once faint whispers of the wind now echoed with sinister intent. Yet still, Nancy persisted, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge and a desire to unravel the mysteries that lay hidden within the forest's depths. She knew that she was treading dangerous ground, but the thought of turning back now was unthinkable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of wandering through the oppressive darkness, Nancy stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an eerie, otherworldly light. At its center stood a gnarled ancient tree, its branches reaching towards the sky like the fingers of a long-forgotten god. As Nancy approached the tree, a sense of dread washed over her, and she could feel the malevolent presence lurking just beyond the edge of her perception. But still, she pressed on, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. And then, as she reached out to touch the rough bark of the tree, a voice whispered in her ear, a voice that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the forest itself. "You should not have come here, Nancy," the voice intoned, its words dripping with malice. "Darkwood holds many secrets, but none are meant for mortal eyes." With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, Nancy realized that she had stumbled upon something far more sinister than she had ever imagined. And as the shadows closed in around her, she knew that she would never escape the clutches of Darkwood alive. As the shadows enveloped Nancy, she felt a cold dread seeping into her bones. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but something held her rooted to the spot, trapped in the grasp of the forest's malevolent power. With a trembling hand, Nancy reached for the flashlight at her side, its feeble beam casting flickering shadows against the ancient tree. But before she could even think to use it, the darkness surged forward, swallowing her whole. In that moment, Nancy was consumed by a darkness so profound, so absolute, that it seemed to devour her very essence. Her screams echoed through the forest, but there was no one to hear them, no one to save her from the fate that awaited her. And then, just as suddenly as it had come, the darkness receded, leaving nothing behind but a sense of emptiness and despair. The forest fell silent once more, as if nothing had ever happened, as if Nancy had never existed at all. But in the depths of Darkwood, a new horror stirred, a horror born from the darkness itself, hungry for souls to devour and secrets to consume. And as the shadows closed in around it, the forest whispered a warning to all who dared to tread its haunted paths. "Beware the darkness that lurks within, for once it claims you, there is no escape." Deep in the heart of the forest, where the sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy of ancient trees, there lay a darkness that seemed to swallow all who dared to venture within. This was the dark forest, a place whispered about in hushed tones by the locals, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred. It was into this forbidding realm that Cindy found herself drawn one fateful evening. She had heard the stories, of course, but like many young people in the small town on the edge of the forest, she was drawn to the mystery that surrounded it. And so, with nothing but a flashlight and her own sense of curiosity, she set out into the trees. As Cindy made her way deeper into the forest, the air grew colder, and the sounds of the night seemed to take on a sinister edge. She could hear the rustle of leaves underfoot, the distant hoot of an owl, and something else, something she couldn't quite place. With each step, Cindy felt the weight of the forest pressing down on her, as if it were alive and watching her every move. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to her like a shadow, growing stronger with each passing moment. Then, just as she was beginning to feel truly afraid, Cindy saw it, a faint light flickering in the distance, like a beacon cutting through the darkness. Intrigued, she quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest as she drew closer to the source of the light. As she stepped into a small clearing, Cindy's flashlight illuminated a scene that sent a shiver down her spine. There, in the center of the clearing, stood a dilapidated old house, its windows boarded up and its roof caving in. It looked like something out of a horror movie, and yet there was something undeniably alluring about it. Summoning all her courage, Cindy approached the house, her footsteps echoing loudly in the stillness of the night. With trembling hands, she reached out and pushed open the creaking door, revealing a darkness so absolute that it seemed to swallow the light from her flashlight. And then, just as Cindy was about to turn back, she heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible above the sound of her own breathing. It seemed to be coming from somewhere deep within the bowels of the house, beckoning her forward with a promise of secrets long forgotten. As Cindy ventured further into the depths of the old house, Her senses were assaulted by the musty smell of decay and the eerie silence that seemed to press in on her from all sides. The floorboards creaked beneath her weight, and shadows danced on the walls, casting strange shapes that seemed to taunt her with their otherworldly presence. She followed the whispering voice, each step echoing in the empty halls like a heartbeat in the darkness. It led her deeper into the labyrinthine interior of the house, twisting and turning until she lost all sense of direction. But still, she pressed on, driven by a curiosity that bordered on obsession. Finally, the whispering led Cindy to a small room at the end of a long corridor. The door stood slightly ajar, and as she pushed it open, she was greeted by a sight that made her blood run cold. The room was filled with ancient relics and artifacts, their surfaces covered in a thick layer of dust. Strange symbols adorned the walls, and in the center of the room, there stood a pedestal upon which rested a small, ornate box. Without thinking, Cindy reached out and opened the box, revealing its contents to be a collection of old photographs. As she sifted through them, her heart skipped a beat, for among the faded images, she saw faces that she recognized, faces of people from her own town who had disappeared without a trace. Suddenly, the whispering voice spoke again, its words echoing in Cindy's mind with a chilling clarity. They came seeking answers, it said, but all they found was darkness. With a sense of mounting dread, Cindy realized that she was not alone in the house, that something ancient and malevolent lurked in the shadows, watching her every move. And as she turned to flee, she felt a cold hand close around her wrist, pulling her back into the darkness. Panic surged through Cindy as the icy grip tightened around her wrist, dragging her further into the depths of the house. She struggled against the unseen force, but it was as if she were fighting against a force of nature itself. With each step, the whispers grew louder, filling her mind with visions of unspeakable horrors and ancient curses. She could feel the darkness closing in around her, suffocating her with its malevolent presence. Desperate for escape, Cindy reached for her flashlight, her fingers fumbling in the darkness. With a flick of the switch, the beam of light cut through the shadows, illuminating the figure that stood before her. It was a woman, or at least it had once been. Her face was twisted with rage, her eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. She was dressed in tattered rags, her hair wild and unkempt, and as she stared at Cindy with a hunger that chilled her to the bone, Cindy knew that she was looking into the face of pure evil. With a scream, Cindy tore herself free from the woman's grasp, stumbling backwards until she collided with the wall. But the woman was relentless, her laughter echoing in the darkness as she advanced, her fingers outstretched like claws. In that moment, Cindy knew that she had only one choice: to face the darkness head-on, to confront the evil that lurked within the heart of the dark forest. With a newfound resolve, she reached deep within herself, summoning a strength she never knew she had. With a shout, Cindy charged at the woman, her fists flying with a fury born of desperation. Blow after blow rained down upon the creature, until finally, with a scream that echoed through the halls of the old house, it crumpled to the ground, defeated. But even as Cindy caught her breath, she knew that her ordeal was far from over. The dark forest still held many secrets, and she had yet to uncover the truth behind the disappearances that had plagued her town for so long. With a sense of determination burning in her heart, Cindy emerged from the old house and into the moonlit night, ready to face whatever lay ahead. For she knew that the darkness would always be a part of her, but so too would the light that burned within her soul.